Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Heldman. I'm an occupational therapy assistant and assistive technology professional at the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And today I'm going to be talking about assistive technology that you can utilize in the kitchen. This is one of our favorite places to work on assistive technology. It seems to be a natural place to integrate assistive technology because most of us really enjoy eating and preparing food, and it's a very social and cultural thing. So it's a fun way to start introducing folks to using assistive technology. Before I dive in, I want to share with you that I'm recording this on March 4th, 2026. If we know anything about assistive technology, we know that it's ever changing and evolving. So resources I share today, new resources may come out tomorrow, or the ones that I share may no longer be available tomorrow. So it's just an ever changing world. And we want you to be mindful of that as you are watching this recording. So with that in mind, let's dive in. So I'm hoping today you can identify some challenges that may impact kitchen participation, that you'll be able to describe some low-tech and high-tech assistive tech solutions to improve safety and independence for kitchen tasks, and that you'll be able to apply a person-centered approach when thinking about assistive technology solutions for kitchen tasks. All right, so why do we think this matters? Obviously, we want our folks to maintain a good level of nutrition and health management. Like I mentioned, the kitchen tends to be a very social place. So the kitchen and using assistive technology and growing in safety and independence in the kitchen is a great way to promote that social participation, as well as that independence and building of self-confidence. So some common barriers that we notice for kitchen tasks are physical, cognitive, and sensory. So when we look at physical, limited range of motion or limited grip strength, tremors, fatigue, decreased motor control and coordination, those can all be things that impact being able to complete kitchen tasks. As well as cognitive barriers, such as being able to sequence steps or follow directions, reading, having a limited safety awareness or limited attention, and then some sensory challenges, so low vision and blindness, hard of hearing, and deaf. So some low-tech things that we often recommend are rocker knives, build-up handles, non-slip mats, jar openers, liquid level indicators, electric can openers, and cut-resistant gloves. So to kind of hone in on a couple of those, a rocker knife, we often hear when we're in the kitchen, I don't want my loved one to cut themselves and I don't want them to burn the house down or burn themselves. So a rocker knife can help eliminate the risk of an individual cutting themselves. So the way a rocker knife works is it has a handle that you're going to hold, and the blade will be down here. So I'm holding and I'm able to cut one-handed, keeping my fingers out of the way. Photoed here on the top left, I have a rectangular orange device there. On the back, you can see that it has metal prongs on it. That's a liquid level indicator that sits down inside of a cup. As the liquid touches those prongs, it'll give you an auditory beep and let you know that the cup is being close to being filled. So you would stop pouring. We have a one-handed pourer there. It looks like they're pouring some orange juice. The one-handed pourer works on a tipping levered system, so you don't have to apply a lot of effort and you don't have to lift that heavy 1-gallon jug and then try to pour it. You can just tip the device and fill up your cup. And then a one-touch can opener, you just simply set on the top of a metal can, touch the button, and it spins around and it takes the lid off without having to crank, and it'll leave an edge that's not sharp to the touch. So oftentimes I encourage folks to think about, if the individuals that you work with are acquiring food from food kitchens or food banks, they're oftentimes getting a lot of canned and jarred items. So ensuring that they can open those items is really important to make sure that they have access to the food that they're getting. Some other low-tech items, pan holders, adaptive measuring cups, and suction cup bases. So a pan holder is exactly what it sounds like. It holds your pan and keeps it from spinning around in a circle as you're cooking. And that can improve safety so folks aren't spilling food or burning themselves. Adaptive measuring cups can come in large print or color-coded to help individuals identify how much of something to put in. So if you're helping an individual and the cups are color-coded, you might say 1 scoop of the red and 1 scoop of the green, as opposed to 1.5 cups. Suction bases can be really helpful to keep things from moving around, to stabilize things, especially when folks have limited range of motion or motor control and coordination issues. Pictured here, I have a scrubbing device that's suction cupped onto the side of the sink, and then the individual can take their glass on and off of those bristles and clean the glass without having to hold the glass in one hand and manipulate a sponge with the other hand. Down at the bottom there, I have a cutting board that has suction cup base on the bottom, which is difficult to see in the photo. In the photo, you can see on this white rectangular cutting board that it has 2 metal prongs sticking up out of it. And what you can actually do is skewer whatever you're cutting onto those prongs. So say I'm cutting an apple, I can kind of stab those prongs into the apple. That's going to hold the apple still while I do cutting. And then you'll also notice in this cutting board, it has a built up corner, and that's to kind of stabilize things into a corner to kind of hold it in place as you're cutting. So similar purpose to those prongs. Some other low-tech things, oven rack guards, stove knob turners, and automatic shut-off devices. All of those things help with that kind of fear of the individual burning themselves or burning the house down. Oven rack guards help so that you're not burning your wrist as you're getting things in and out of the oven. Stove knob turners and automatic shut-off devices can be used. Stove knob turners can be used to help actually turn the knobs on and off. And there's other stove knob turners that over a certain amount of time, they work electronically and they can actually shut the stove off. As well as those automatic shut-off devices. If they notice that the stove has been on for a long time and there's no motion in front of the stove, it can actually shut the whole stove down. Using labeled containers or picture labels or color-coded system and drawer organizers are also ways to kind of lighten that cognitive load when folks are trying to find things in their kitchen. Moving up the scale kind of to some mid to high tech things, we can use smart plugs for appliances as well. So smart plugs, interrupt the power until we tell that plug to work. So smart plugs can be used for things as simple as a coffee pot, all the way up to they have specialized plugs that work with ranges and stoves. We can use motion sensor lighting, so especially task lighting, maybe under cabinets, so that I have some extra lighting as I'm doing cutting or mixing. I can use smart speakers. I especially like the Alexa for the kitchen. I like the way that Alexa shows you recipes. So if I ask Alexa to show me a recipe for mac and cheese, for example, it populates a bunch of recipes off the screen. I'm able to sort them by easy or gluten-free or vegan or whatever I want. I always go for easy. And then I select the recipe and it's going to populate all the ingredients I need. It'll give me directions. I can say, add all those ingredients to my shopping list to look at later. Or I can say, start the recipe, and I'll actually read that recipe out loud to me step by step. I can also save the recipe for later. So I really especially like the feature of having the recipe read step by step for our individuals. Induction cooktop is another strategy that we can utilize when individuals have a fear of burning themselves. So the way induction stove cooktops work is that actual cooktop does not get hot to the touch. I've tried it. You can put your hand on there. You're not going to get burnt. It stays cool to the touch. And then you use specialized pots and pans, and it works with magnetic waves from the induction through the special pan. The pans and pots themselves will get hot, but the surface stays cool. So again, you do need special pots and pans when you're using that. There are smart appliances, so refrigerators that have built-in screens to add your shopping list, cameras that can go inside your refrigerator to see what's present, smart things like coffee pots, crock pots, air fryers that can hook right into your smart speakers to be controlled. There's also things like talking kitchen skills. There's some apps for cooking support. Pinterest, for those of you that remember utilizing Pinterest to kind of save different things that you're finding for a specific topic, Pinterest can be a great way to teach our folks to kind of organize recipes. So create a board on Pinterest, and here's a bunch of quick, easy ideas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then maybe as the house is sitting down and doing some weekly meal planning, they can look back at those ideas. There are some step-by-step prompting apps. As I mentioned, the Alexa does a nice job of that as well. And then timer and reminder apps. And of course, those are integrated into our smart speakers as well. Some cognitive and visual supports. I really like the Accessible Chef to make recipe cards. So if you're able to see on the screen here, this is a snapshot from Accessible Chef. So what you do is you title your recipe. So I'm going to say I'm making peanut butter and jelly. And then the next blocks down say you will need ingredients, and you can use their database or add your own images. So I need bread, I need peanut butter, and I need jelly. So I can add those 3 photos in. And then it'll ask for what tools you need. So I need a butter knife and a plate. And maybe I need a jar opener too. And then you can't see it on the screen here, but then you start adding in the sequencing for creating your peanut butter and jelly. So it creates really, really nice visual recipe for folks to utilize. And you can build that out yourself and really customize it to meet the needs of the individual that you're working with. Using things like first then boards. So first we're going to wash our hands, and then we're going to cut the lettuce. Laminated task sequences, so kind of the same idea as first then, but adding on additional steps. Using pre-measured ingredients and meal kits is a great way for individuals that have some struggles cognitively to start learning how to cook. So many of the home delivered meals that you can get from like Home Chef and all of those places, everything is pre-measured for you. But you could certainly incorporate that idea on your own and pre-measure things out for folks. And then they would simply follow the steps to incorporate them together. And then having structured routines in the kitchen and really anywhere can really lighten cognitive loads. So maybe every time I go in the kitchen, I know that I'm going to wash my hands before I get started. Maybe every time I turn on the stovetop, I'm going to set a reminder with Alexa to remind me in 30 minutes to make sure I turn the stove off when I'm done. So you can really build in lots of different routines. Maybe every Thursday night, if you're like me, your Alexa will remind you to take the trash out of the kitchen. We can also do environmental modifications to help with cooking. So things like keeping the countertops clear, right? Can reduce that visual and cognitive load if we have clear countertops. We can keep things in a consistent place, so we can label our cabinets to know where things are. We can use high contrast cutting boards. So if you have a white countertop, don't also use a white cutting board, because then it's going to be hard to tell the difference. So maybe use a neon green cutting board on your white countertop. You can have sinks that have the cutout underneath for wheelchair access, pull down shelving, so folks that use a mobility device or who are shorter in stature can reach things that are in the top cupboards, things like automatic faucets. Some ovens will have transfer stations so that as you're taking hot things out of the oven, you have somewhere to set it, especially for wheelchair users or folks that have limited strength. That can be really helpful. So some considerations for us to think about what does individual want to do, right? So we want to break that down into steps. Sometimes we call that task analysis. And then as we're looking at those steps, what supports does the individual need? And we think about the supports, are there assistive technologies that can help match that? So we're going to match the assistive technology to the specific need of the individual. We want to practice in the real environment where these things happen. So it's one thing to do things in the kitchen of our smart home that's really accessible and has tons of supports in it. It might be a completely different thing to do that same exact task in the individual's apartment. So making sure that they're able to do it in their real environment too. And then can we gradually fade supports out? So maybe they've started with these visual supports and visual directions, and then gradually we might be able to fade those out and start teaching some new skills. And then ensuring that if the individual has a support team, that the support team knows how to use the equipment also. One example of this is I was recently working with a family. The individual was using a one-touch can opener. They have some decreased hand strength. And the staff shared with me that they'd never used a one-touch can opener before. So, just a simple demonstration, making sure that the staff knew how to use that one-touch can opener as well. So here's a quick case study just to kind of get your brain thinking a little bit more. So Logan is a 17-year-old student with autism who plans to attend a community-based transition program after graduation. He has strong visual learning skills, enjoys routines, and prefers structured tasks. Logan can complete simple snack preparation independently, like making a sandwich, but he becomes overwhelmed when cooking multiple step meals. And Logan is a made-up person. This is not anyone that I know. So some challenges that we're observing with Logan, he has difficulty sequencing multi-step directions. He has anxiety when using the stove. He has trouble managing time while cooking. He has some sensory sensitivities to loud timers and strong food smells. And he has limited awareness of food safety steps. His long-term goal is to independently prepare 3 to 5 simple meals before graduation. So I want you to pause the video maybe for a moment and kind of brainstorm some ideas of assistive technology that you would partner with Logan to help meet his needs. So pause for a minute and come back in a couple of minutes and I'll share my solutions with you. All right, did you do it? Did you pause and think? So some supports that I came up with for Logan are using visual sequencing support, so some step-by-step picture cards, color-coded measuring spoons, maybe even a dry erase checklist of safety things. He could use digital recipe and task support, so things like a smart speaker or recipes broken down into single steps, or even video modeling clips of how to make some simple recipes that he can refer back to later. Time management supports, so using a visual timer instead of an audible timer. They have timers that go red, yellow, green to kind of count down. You could, instead of having the ding, 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 ding on your Alexa or Google, you could have it be a voice that says, your time is up, and it says it very calmly, or, it's time to empty out the oven. And pre-programmed cooking time saved for common meals. So some smart appliances allow you to program different times in. Some safety supports, stoned off covers when it's not in use, automatic shut-off device for the stovetop. So after a certain amount of time passes, the stove will just automatically shut off. Using an electric skillet can be a nice way for folks to learn cooking. So a plug-in electric skillet, smaller surface area, no open flame if you've got gas stove, can be a good way for folks to start learning cooking. And cut-resistant gloves for chopping. So these are gloves that the knife cannot cut through. He could also use a rocker knife or nylon knives, which he would be less likely to cut himself. And then some sensory regulation tools. So using noise reducing headphones, having a fan on to help with the smells, and maybe creating a predictable weekly schedule of the things that he's going to prepare to help reduce some of that anxiety. So I'm curious if you came up with any of the same ideas or different ideas. There's many, many ways to overcome these obstacles that Logan's having. So we may have come up with some similar things or different things. All right, Mariah is a 47-year-old woman with CP who has lived independently for over 20 years. She works part-time and values preparing her own meals as part of maintaining autonomy and managing her health. Recently, she's having hand fatigue and reduced grip strength. She's having a hard time stabilizing pots and bowls while stirring, trouble opening jars and food packaging. She's afraid of dropping hot items, and her standing tolerance is limited to 10 to 15 minutes. So as a result, she's begun relying more on takeout meals, which has impacted her budget and her nutrition. So again, pause the video for a moment. Come back and let's share our ideas together. Did you pause? Okay, let's share some ideas. So some adapted food preparation tools, using a rocker knife, using shelf liner or dice them under bowls and cutting boards to keep things from sliding around. There's all different kinds of jar openers. There's ones that can be mounted under your cabinet. There's ones that are plastic that you rotate. There's the Robo Twist, which is an electric jar opener that we found out only works on glass jars. You could use a lightweight cookware, making sure things aren't too heavy, and using an electric or one-touch can opener. Positioning and endurance. So having a stool or a seat in the kitchen can be a great strategy. Do as many things seated as you can if you need to conserve some energy. Having an anti-fatigue mat on the floor can be helpful. And keeping frequently used items at waist level so I'm not having to do lots of bending and reaching. Some technology that can be incorporated in the kitchen, a food chopper to reduce the need to do all that cutting. Just a tiny food processor can really help alleviate some of that. Using a slow cooker like a crock pot or air fryer, and it just eliminates the need for that stovetop use that she's concerned about. Using an automatic shutoff, voice activated smart speakers again. And then for safety considerations, we've got the stove knob covers again, a slide board technique for transferring hot pans instead of curing. So that's that transfer system I've talked about previously where you can slide things out of the oven onto a transfer station. And then using insulated and easy grip oven mitts as well. So some of those things you probably have in your own kitchens and maybe just didn't think about them as assistive technology before. So as always, if you want to chat more, have questions, you can reach out to the remote support at woodcountyd.org. And this email contacts our entire occupational therapy team. Thank you so much.